We're back.
So, with the year ending, and this crazy year, we keep talking about this crazy year. That has been like a reoccurring theme on this show.
Yep.
But we're here. We're at the end of 2020, and gotta look towards 2021.
Right.
And so I think it's no better time to really just kind of dig into the weeds of what does it mean to be motivated, right? Like this year has been heavy on all of
hard.
Us. Heavy and hard.
Yes.
From a multitude of different ways, you know.
Right.
And so how do we keep it going? How do we turn the curb? As President Trump said about the coronavirus, how do we turn the curb, in relation to our years and like making next year better, especially with cases being so high and things still kind of being the same towards the end of this year?
It's a loaded question. So, I was reading an article the other day in Entrepreneur magazine, and I can't quote the gentleman. I don't remember his name, but I think it was the editor that was talking about everything that he's done this year and how he used to wait for celebrations and wait to open up a bottle of scotch and wait to do different, like he was just talking about his life and how he would receive gifts and he would receive accolades and he just waited to process it or waited to celebrate. And he was like, with the craziness of this year, there's no more waiting. When he gets a gift, he opens it immediately. If someone says something to him, he addresses it immediately. The point that he was trying to make was, when Corona happened and businesses shut down and people just stopped, a lot of people went into hibernation. Businesses went into hibernation. People went into hibernation. I can say I'm guilty of it too. I was like, oh, I need to stop and just figure out what's going to happen next. And that was my immediate reaction. And I think a lot of people did that immediately. They went into like a cave, like a bear, like, let me just hibernate. And people are still hibernating. So his point was stop. Like, this is
like, stop hibernating.
Stop hibernating.
But why would you stop? I feel like if anything, you hibernate till you
No.
It's different from like a bear.
This is how he explained it though.
A bear hibernates and gets super skinny and small because it's not eating, right? Like for months.
He said hibernation, like in pausing and stopping and waiting for something different to happen. So what happened a lot of times for a lot of people's response to Corona, it was like, all right, we're going to be in masks for a little while. There's going to be a vaccine. We're going to find out something different and new, and we'll be back to business as usual. So people just hit the pause button. Like, I'm going to stop until it gets better. And that was a response for a lot of people, and it still has been a response for a lot of people. So he was talking about hibernation in terms of pausing and waiting. So a bear does it. It's a part of his life and like how he manages his livelihood. But for people, hibernating, in the context of how he said it was, don't stop and let the year pass you by. Don't stop and let this time pass you by waiting for something good to happen or waiting for something different to happen or waiting for the corner to shift so that you have a better outlook and now you can say, okay, I need to do something different now, or now I can pick up like I used to because things have changed and they're back to normal. There is no back to normal right now.
I mean, I think of hibernation more along the lines of, let me go into my cave, my cocoon, and be ready to sprout out like a butterfly.
Yeah, and I think that's
more of like the caterpillar analogy rather than the bear analogy, because the bear, like I said, the bear ain't eating. He ain't active. If anything, the bear comes out weaker with no food, deprived out of hibernation, versus the caterpillar that's like sewing its web and it's evolving.
So
it comes out sprouting.
There is something to be said about that. Okay, there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about the fact that you might need to take a pause to rebrand yourself. Be the caterpillar, not the bear. Revisit who you are. Come out anew. That's a whole different kind of analogy. So, but the point that he was making that I took from it was, don't stop to wait for this to improve. Don't stop to wait for there's no more coronavirus. Don't stop to wait for the pandemic to just go away. Things are happening. People are super successful right now. I've been reading so many articles about these wonderful businesses that have been established. I was just reading about Taraji Henson starting her mental awareness business and starting a new hair care line that's doing great. I was just reading about all these different businesses that have started in the height of the pandemic that are thriving and doing well. Now, that's not the story for everybody, But the point is, don't sit on your idea. Don't sit on that new, business that you've been thinking about for some time that you just decided you're going to pause even longer because now we're in a pandemic. People are still spending money. People are still thriving. We know that unemployment is just it's ridiculous right now. We know the numbers tell us that there's also a lot of people losing jobs and a lot of people without incomes and not, thriving and flourishing. But on the flip side of that, there's still quite a few that are. So if you sit there and you just wait, you might miss an opportunity to be great and to be successful in the midst of everything that's happening.
What are you doing to grind?
Oh, my grind? So my grind is I've started a business that I have I've recently branded and recently been pushing to do and to get contracts and to get clients. I'm writing. I started a blog that hasn't launched yet, but I've started it. So I've already started writing. I have a number of classes. I'm always pursuing new opportunities to teach. So I'm juggling 2 right now. I still have a day job. I'm always helping you do something. So I have like 5 different things that I'm doing on a daily basis as part of my grind. And so a part of what I'm doing is I'm trying to get to the point of being, financially independent and having all these different avenues of wealth, not just to be rich, but to be wealthy. Like that's my motivation. That's where I want to be. So my grind is every single day I'm thinking about what do I need to do differently for myself today? Or what do I need to do to add to my list of things for the day to get me closer to it? So for me, my grind is goal setting and attacking my goals every day. That's my grind.
It's so important to have a very clear vision of what your goals are and where you're going. And that is the number one, I would say one of the number one contributors, one of the number one factors that can actually make someone's 2021 successful. When COVID first hit and this year started just becoming a muck, I was running all over the place. Similar to you, I started a whole bunch of projects, doing a bunch of different things, but I never had a very clear vision in front of me at the top of the year of what my goals for each one of those different avenues were. So at one point I was, selling health products. Another point I was selling masks. Another point I was, running good. Another point I was going on a tour around the country. Another point I started a COVID cleaning company, right? Another point I started my consulting firm. And so I have had at least like 7 or 8 different avenues of potential revenue generating sources this year. And what I've seen when you aren't narrow-minded and focused, they all just they thin out your capacity and they don't allow you to actually make tangible progress in each one. When you're just all over the place and you don't have a clear idea of what the goal is for each one of those and the plan, the implementation process and the execution of what attacking each one of those goals look like. So you said, you have about 5 different things you're working on. You have the goals aligned, and every day you're marking down what you're doing and you're keeping track of your tasks. And so you can begin to see the progress day by day, week by week when you do those things. Right. When you don't do those things and your goals aren't clear and the process of how you attain those goals aren't clear, you fail. Right. 9 times out of 10. And I can say, looking at my year, in most people's eyes, they'd be like, oh, Danny had a good 2020. I think I had a good 2020. But could my 2020 have been 10 times more impactful, 10 times more successful? Right. Hell yeah. If I would have did things, if I would have executed on, and taking the time to actually think strategically about each one of those goals and started just like, oh, it's 2020. Let me do this. So there's a fine line between being opportunistic and actually, working towards an opportunity. Yeah. Right. Yep. So I would say most of the year I was opportunistic. I was like, let me do this, let me do that. Versus like, oh, this is an opportunity. Let me see how it aligns with all the things that I'm working on. Right. And last point, I would say alignment is key going into 2021. Yeah, definitely. When you define your goals of what you want to accomplish, you need to make sure that it aligns with all the other things that you're doing, so that the synergy will keep you keep you moving forward.
And I think it's important for your grind to be yours. There's so much information out here on how other people are starting new businesses or new avenues that they're taking for wealth building and becoming rich and becoming small business owner, successful in whatever right that they're kind of working towards. It's good to adopt some of those principles, but I think when you talked about being opportunistic and really grabbing onto, oh, this is hot, let me grab that, oh, that's hot, let me do that. People are doing that too, and then they're getting frustrated and they're burning out because it's not for them. You know, you have to pick up what's for you. Yeah. Instead of trying to adapt to something new that somebody's doing because it's been successful for them, instead of trying to brand yourself in that same way, why don't you take an alternative approach and actually look at what some of those things that they're doing that are helping them be successful? Yeah. You don't need to have that same business model. What you might need to do is look at what they're doing to be successful. Look at the steps that they're taking. Look at how they've made a different product. Look at how they're using social media. Look at how they're blogging. Look at some of their selling points, but don't necessarily adopt their business model. You don't necessarily need to be the new entrepreneur that's selling masks or making masks or starting a hair care line. Maybe don't do that just because somebody else is successful in it. You know, do like go the steps that they're taking to market. So adapt and do the things that they might be utilizing to help encourage their business. So I think everybody has to figure out what the grind looks like for them and align that to what they're good at and what their passions are. We all want to make money. So of course you need to have your eyes on the financial part of that too, but don't just copy what somebody else is doing because it's making them successful. That's not necessarily the best approach, I think.
In my eyes, it's almost as if I think a great analogy for that is having a tool belt, right? Like everyone has their own tool belt that, you know, has different items that they need to be successful.
Yeah.
And as you go through life, it's important for you to look at the tools that other people are using to accomplish their goals and to be successful. Yep. And adopting those tools and grabbing those tools and putting them in your belt. So like you said, not necessarily doing the same thing as everyone else,
right?
Or following in their footsteps, because every single one of us has our own different creative process and our own uniqueness that we can bring towards business or our own personal growth. And it really comes down to understanding all the different things that successful people are using to elevate themselves and finding the right ones to make yourself successful.
Right. And, you know, when you just mentioned the tool belt, you know, I always tell my students, I give them the tools that they need to be successful. Because so many people, and I can tell you a number of people have, called me up or emailed me and said, oh, cybersecurity is hot. Like, you've been in it for so many years. I want to do that too. Well, why? They want to do it because the numbers show that cyber jobs are still thriving. Yeah. Like, there's no shortage as far as unemployment in cybersecurity. They're having a hard time matching people's skills to certain jobs and actually acquiring the right talent, but cyber people keep jobs. So I get it for the monetary value, and I get it for just the sustainability of having a job. But what I tell my students is I'm going to teach you how to be a cyber expert, but the rest of the tools that you need, being able to present, being able to speak to people, being able to write, being able to have analysis as part of your way of thinking. All those different skills are part of the tools that you need to have in your tool belt and your toolkit. It's not just chasing the dream of understanding cybersecurity and what that means. You're not going to be a successful cyber expert if you can't communicate, if you can't articulate issues to people at all different levels, if you can't write valuable information around, you know, what a vulnerability means or what cyber means to different people that have no knowledge of it. Like, if you don't understand how to do that, if you don't have that learning, you know, as part of your tool belt and as part of your toolkit, you're not going to be a successful cyber expert. So you have to recognize that if you are chasing the money, there are other skills that you need. There are other tools that you need. And those are the things that you need to be finding out how other people have those and how they've acquired them so you can have them too.
Yeah, it's so important to identify the skills you need. You know, I said this in another episode that we had, but when I look back at my college tenure specifically, I didn't know what I wanted to do long term. I just knew I was good at a bunch of things. And so over the course of my 8 or 9 internships in college, there was 2 things I was doing. One, I was learning what industries I didn't want to be in, right? And then 2, I was going through my internships just adopting a wide variety of skills. I was a press intern in the Senate because I wanted to learn how to do media briefs and how PR worked, right? I worked for the Department of Energy, but I did like low-income home inspections and learned about solar and the way the government was using, solar. I worked at a think tank doing special projects so I could learn how to do events management. I worked at a PR firm doing business development, which was pretty much like sales and putting together development packages, right? I worked as a hospitality intern so that I could really work on my customer service skills, right? And so each one of those internships provided me a wide variety of hard and soft skills that ultimately put me in a position where I became an entrepreneur out of college instead of going into a specific industry. Because I had so many skills from each one of those different pathways that I had chosen, for my internships, that allowed me to have a really solid foundation. And when we think about people, going back to your point about hibernating, right? If people are hibernating or taking this as a time where it's like, I need to kind of burrow in and wait it through, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. If you are burrowing in, if you're
hibernated,
if you're going in your cave, then it's important for you to come out with a strong foundation. Build up your house while you're in your cave. Your cave is your house. And so if you are going to lock in your doors and close yourself in here, then do some upgrades. Paint your walls.
See, I agree with that completely. I think for the people, so I think your example that you just mentioned are for people that have an idea. Like they have an idea of where they want to go, they have an idea of what they want to do, or they have some things in progress. So you're saying don't just stop, like do some building while you are giving yourself a pause and taking a beat. But for those people that are just decided to cut themselves off and just wait this out, like hunker down, go in their bunker. I'm just going to wait this out to see what happens on the other side of Corona. We don't know if that's going to be next year. We don't know if that's going to be 2022. We have no idea. So do something while you're waiting. So if it's reading, if it's talking to people. So one of the worst things I think that people can do, which I think he was getting to in the article too, is if you stop and you just wait and you kind of go with that alone, then that's when you're not necessarily, I don't know that that's necessarily self-care. That's when depression and things that, other challenges kind of settle in, because you have isolated yourself from the world and opportunities to have conversations, to be a little bit creative, to start talking about innovation and different things that might have been on your mind. And now you're just kind of, literally sitting there waiting. And I think a lot of people did that initially. And I think that was probably the shock of it, for everybody. Even for me, it was like, we are not about to be in mass every day. We are not, going to be in a position where we can't physically go in offices and things like that. So the shock of it, I think, settled in for everybody. Okay, so the shock is over. The numbers we know are still climbing and we know it's still really bad, but don't just stop. I like what you said, still kind of build the house, paint the walls, redecorate, do some stuff internally. And even if it's in your own homes or in your own space, do some things to kind of brighten up your thought process. And I think that's a part of, when we talk about grinding looks differently for everybody, and that's something for each person to visit and figure out, what that is for them. But don't just stop and do nothing.
One thing I always heard when I was younger is idle time is the devil time. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the house, regardless of whether you're a child or an adult, and you're just sitting around and you're just watching TV, letting time pass, so you're watching the news like, oh no, the coronavirus cases are going up,
right, and
you aren't doing things that are productive for your overall health and benefits, then then you're essentially putting yourself in a position to feel worse, either mentally, emotionally, or even physically if you aren't exercising and going out. And one of the contributing factors, I think, in regard to that is feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
I heard this so often playing football growing up. But my coach would always say to us, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. And I never understood what that meant until probably post-college is when I really understood what it meant to feel sorry for yourself. Because I used to be like, what do they mean? I'm out here practicing. Like, I don't feel sorry for myself. Like, it's stupid. And when I think about my football tenure, right? Like, I started playing football when I was 6 and all the way through college, right? Yeah. So about 16 years of football every year, right? It was a natural part of my life. And when I look at high school, I was definitely one of the top 5 players in our league, right? And I played with people like Stephon Diggs, that's on the Bills now, right? And so the level of talent in our league, the WCAC, was unmatched. Definitely one of the best conferences in the country. And then I went to Georgetown, where I felt like my football career had kind of taken a step back. Like I wasn't on the same trajectory that I should have been going to one of these D1 schools. But anyone that really knows football knows you can go to the NFL from any school.
Yeah.
D1, D1AA, D2, D3. But for me, I didn't let that fuel my fire and make me work harder. Instead, I was like, this is stupid. I'm not gonna work as hard. Yeah. Right? Like I was going out too much. I wasn't getting good sleep for practice. I, wasn't focused. Yeah. Wasn't working out as hard. All of those things. And ultimately, what did that do? That hurt me in the long run. That hurt my football career. That made it so that I wasn't as good, comparably in college. Yeah. I didn't end up going to the league. And I did well after college, but it took time reflecting on my college tenure and really looking at myself in the mirror to say I was feeling sorry for myself. Yeah. And because I was feeling sorry for myself, that had adverse impacts to my development during those years. And when we think about people right now that are looking at the news, looking at coronavirus cases going up, thinking about unemployment going up, may have lost their jobs, may be making less money, may have family members ill. All of these things, combine to make us feel sorry for ourselves in the state that we're in, the state that our country is in, the state that our people are in. Yeah. And all that does is have negative effects on our well-being. Yep. Like you have to be able to switch your mindset up and think more positively. Like thinking positively will do you so much good. Yeah. So much good.
And I know it's hard for people it's difficult for people to get there in the height of so much bad happening in the news, but I was just reminded when you were talking about your college years, it made me think about my own and being in college. Because I remember you told me that a lot of your, not necessarily friends, because I know a lot of your friends are out of school, but for some of the people that that are still in college have decided to take a break. Corona's happening, schools are not, we're not allowed to be physically on campus, and all these kinds of, different things are happening across the country where schools have reacted differently. When I was in school, so, you don't even know all of this story, so this is going to be news for you. So when I was in college, so I started at Howard, which I was at Howard University. I was at Howard specifically because my father worked there, and I was able to get remission of tuition, which was minimal to no tuition payment. So that was the only reason why I went to Howard, because there was no money for me to go to school anyplace else. So I started at Howard. So when I was at Howard, you were 3 or 4. So I had a 3 or 4 year old, and I was living on my own. So we had an apartment. I had a 3 to 4 year old child, and I'm in college, and I'm working part time. So all these things are happening for me. And so when I was at Howard had classes like 8 to 5. That's it. So I had to work part of that day. I couldn't work at night because I had to pick up you. So I had all these, just unusual circumstances that no one else would have had during that time. So when I was at Howard, I can tell you I was probably making like $395 every 2 weeks. The apartment that we were living in was about $375 a month, $375 a month. So you can do the math on that. That's one check. So for me to buy books were like $100 a piece. I didn't have enough money to buy books. So I would literally start classes and not have enough money to buy books and didn't have any money coming from any place else to buy books. So I would ask people to copy pages of their books. I would try to buy used books. I was doing all these different things to try to get books. So a lot of times I didn't get a book. So I was trying to finish classes without a textbook. So you have to think about it. Like now it's so different. You can rent books. You can do all kinds of stuff. I didn't have any of those avenues back then. So I was failing classes. So I started failing classes, not because I wasn't smart enough to do the work, because I couldn't get the material. So I was in the semester trying to figure out how I was going to stay afloat and get the work done, and couldn't. So a lot of classes I was failing them, I was repeating them, I was taking summer classes, I was doing all kinds of stuff to try to stay afloat, and I ended up on academic probation. So when I ended up on academic probation, Howard said, enough, Kenise Middleton, you cannot stay here anymore like this. You got to go figure it out someplace else. We'll give you a semester break off. You go figure out how you're going to manage these classes. Anyway, so I ended up at other schools. Was able to get grants because I didn't have a lot of money. So I was low income at the time. I was able to establish grants so that I could buy books. I couldn't do that at Howard. Long story short, I ended up at Strayer University. So 4 years have passed at this point. I am antsy and itching to get out of school. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm 4 years in. I'm seeing people that I knew from Howard graduating. So I'm starting to feel bad for myself. I'm starting to feel sorry for myself because I'm like, I'm smart. I need to be able to get a great job. I need to be able to make more money. I need to be able to do all these great things. And I can't because I don't have a degree. So what I did was I explored other options to get my degree. So I explored these exams called CLEP exams, these exams called Dante's exams, where I was able to pay $70 to $80 to take an exam to get credit. I literally did a whole year of taking exams to get a full year of credit. So I was able to get out of school quickly. I know you didn't even know this. I was able to get out of school quickly because I was able to literally read a book, learn about art history, learn about some type of elective real fast, read the book, and I would go take the test and pass. So I signed myself up for like 6 different tests. So 6 different tests, that's about, $500 to $600. I signed myself up for that. That's how much one credit class is. Yeah. So I was literally able to sign myself up for all these classes, pass them, and get a whole year's worth of credit down. So that my last year Strayer, I was able to do online and in person on all these variations of coursework so that I can get out of class. The whole point of that story is I had my time of feeling sorry for myself, but I also had this fire under me saying, we're going to be poor and impoverished for a long time if I don't get this together. So even though I had a child, even though I was working part-time, even though I had responsibilities of somebody who was maybe 10 years older than me, I had to get it together. I had to figure it out, because if I had waited and did nothing, I don't know if I would have gotten my degree.
I would be poor Danny right
You'd
now?
be poor Danny right now.
I would be poor Danny.
Your story would be so different right now. Your story would be different right now. So for everybody who's trying to
Thank you.
So for everybody that's trying to figure out like how to survive school, working all these different things, explore different options. Nobody told me to do that. I literally read, and all schools don't accept CLEP exams and Dante's exams, and maybe that's not an option for you because all schools don't take them. But when I read that I could do that, I was like, wait a minute. Because the thing about me though,
inquisitive.
You do.
We've said I've said this before. If you're not inquisitive and exploring,
you gotta
what?
That's why. But that's why
you have to say to yourself, this can't be.
No,
it.
But that's why if you go into hibernation and you don't read and you don't talk to people and you don't explore and you don't inquire about different things, you won't know. I inquired about those. I just did some research and I was like, wait, what is this CLEP thing? You mean to tell me this is like $70 as opposed to $500 a credit that I don't have to pay for school? And so I explored it, and I knew that I knew I was smart too. So I knew I could read a book. Just like I always tell you, I can read a book and I can learn anything. I might not watch a YouTube video, but I'll read a book real fast and I'll learn a bunch of stuff.
You know what works for you.
That's what works for me. So most of the credits that I needed were not in my, because at this point I was majoring in computer information systems. So I knew I had to take those classes. But the electives, I still needed all of these elective credits that I didn't pass because I didn't have books and all this other stuff from the past. So I will purchase a very, inexpensive used book from a library, and I will read it, and I would go sit for that 2-hour test, and I would pass it. And that's how I got out of school.
There is no substitute for hard work.
It's not.
And until people actually learn that, you know, they'll never be successful.
Right.
Like,
right.
You have to put in the work. You have to put in the time.
You do.
And even when things seem bleak, if you just keep your engine churning,
right,
and you keep going, you will find a way through.
And it's okay to feel down and to feel sad and to feel, dejected for a moment. Don't let that day turn into tomorrow and then turn into the next day. It's okay to have a moment to reset. We all need that. That's a part of self-care. That's a part of you managing your life and your emotions. But that shouldn't be tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next week.
It is. I always say, when something happens, I like to take my second to sulk. I'll sulk.
Yeah, have your pity party. Have your party. 30
minutes for an hour.
That's all right.
Day, whatever.
That's all right.
Don't let it continue on. You sulk for that whatever amount of time you're gonna allot to yourself, and then
get the engines. Get the engines rolling again.
I keep going back to these concepts of football because I think that sports and just extracurricular activities overall teach you how to overcome adversity.
Yeah.
And specifically being a cornerback, playing football, they always said you had to have short-term memory. Like you gotta like forget. You get beat to play, you gotta line up and play against that same person right there again and go just as hard and know you're gonna win the next time.
Yeah.
And that mindset is the same mindset that I have taken and attacked with life. When I've made mistakes, when things haven't gone as well, when I thought I was gonna close on a deal that I wasn't able to, when I start some new goals and be like, I'm not gonna go out, or I'm not gonna drink, or I'm not gonna do whatever, and then all of a sudden I miss a day.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have a short-term memory. You got to be able to just flip it on and just
don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay, like I said, it's okay to have a pity party.
You gotta be hard on yourself.
No.
You gotta be hard on yourself.
But so for you can be hard on yourself and you can bounce right out of that. Some people will be hard on themselves and revisit that every single day. So I think it's levels to it. Don't be so hard on yourself that it keeps you in the bed.
You gotta know
and you don't get out.
You gotta know what's best for you. Like for me, I will literally put on motivational videos on my TV and they'll just run.
Yeah.
As I cook
and see, that's great. That works for you.
And I just hear it in the back of my mind and I'm just like, I need to go do some push-ups. I need to go run. I need to start reading. I need to write. And then I'll literally have a fire in me for the next few hours. But one thing that I always do is I try new things, right? Like, and people you have to figure out what works for you.
Yeah, you have to explore.
The same recipe that works for me isn't going to work for you,
right?
Or for someone else on one of our teams, like, or someone that they were speaking to. Like, you have to try new things and really dig deep to ask yourself, what is it that I need to give myself that fire?
Yeah,
because. Like, for me, it isn't music. I can go run outside and music will actually distract me. I'd rather run outside and not have any music because I got this voice in my head that's like, you gonna quit. And I'm like, no.
Right.
And I just keep running, right? But like, that works for me.
Yeah.
That works for
me. See, a lot of people will say, you read all the time where they say, exercise does it. Exercise or, enhance your life. Exercise will keep you motivated. Exercise will make you, have a more positive outlook. All of that is true, but some people need the step before exercise to get to exercise. So that's why it's important for people to figure out what works for them, because maybe the step before exercise is calling a friend and hearing something encouraging from them. Maybe it's praying. Maybe it's motivational videos. Maybe it's something else. But you gotta you can't. Everything can't just be noise around you. Go do this, go do this, go do this because everybody else is doing it. You have to explore different options that work for you. But at the same time, you don't want to just sit there, because if you sit there, Monday turns into Wednesday, turns into Friday. So do something, figure out what works for you. Because like I said, like I've talked to several people that are like, I just can't exercise. I just can't get out there. I just can't. And can't is temporary. It's not real, but it's real for them in that moment. So I'm like, all right, well, let's do something before exercise.
But you have to realize that it's not. You also have to realize it's not going to be perfect as soon as you try. Like, too often we want immediate gratification when we're doing things.
Yeah, we do.
There's people that have barely ever worked out in their life and they want to lose weight and they go exercise and it's like, this is hard, or I didn't lose a pound today, or what have you. And you have to understand that it takes consistency. It takes building up to really see progress.
Yeah.
I'm someone that has look for quick wins all the daggone time and never get them. And it's funny, and like every single time I try a new little quick scheme, or not scheme, but a new little business venture or a new way to make some quick money, and it doesn't work, I'm like, God wants you to work hard. Like that's something that I've always had in the back of my head since I was younger. Like some people have luck on their side, but your destiny is to grind it through, and you've always seen your most success when you've grinding it through, and when you've been consistent, when you found a routine. Like I've self-analyzed and I figured that out. So every single time I try, to play the lottery or to go, play poker or do some quick option trading on the stock market, like it never works out. No matter how many times I try, it never works out. Because my life was destined for me to build consistency and to build routine and to grind it through. Now, that's not the same for everyone, but we all have to figure out what works for us. And, I'm fortunate that I've spent a lot of time analyzing, what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what motivates me, what doesn't motivate me, and the things that work well. But until you actually give yourself time to actually see what progress looks like, or to see what failure looks like, you aren't going to be able to really understand what you need to achieve your success.
Well, the other thing that you need in order to do that is to build up resiliency. So that's one of the reasons why when someone wants to lose weight and they go work out, and then they work out on Monday, then they don't work out on Tuesday, that they end up sitting on the couch, kind of down about it, because you have to build up those reserves inside. You've had them because you've had me, you've had your dad, you've had like a whole village of people that care about you, that love you, that uplift you, and you've had a number of positive things that have happened in your life. So you've kind of had, whether you know it or not, you've always had some reserves kind of sitting in you. So when things happen, you didn't just, sit on the couch for 5 days. You got right back up. Even though it might not have felt great in the moment, you got right back up. I think it's important for people, especially now with so much death and disaster and just awfulness around us, it's important for people to build up resiliency. So as you are trying something new that could potentially fail, how are you going to get yourself back up? Sometimes it's not the physical act of doing it. Sometimes it's the mental and emotional act of doing it.
And to that point, I recognize that everyone doesn't have the foundation that I had, or the love that I've had, or the information in the back of my mind to know that I'm gonna be okay, or I got parents to support me. There's a lot of people who don't have those things. A lot of people that haven't played sports that have been able to build up that resiliency. And what we often don't realize is our mind is like a muscle, like any other component of our body. And we have to continuously work it to build up that resiliency that you've spoken of, to build up its capacity. It's like any other thing. For people that work out, you know that if you continue to exercise every day, you get stronger, your endurance gets better, and you know what that result looks like. For people that don't work out, here's another analogy. When you learn a subject or you do a job, if you do that job every day in your industry, then you get better at it over a year, over 2 years. If you are learning a subject in school and every day you study or every week you study, by the end of the semester, you're going to know a little bit of that subject. Same thing when it comes down to the resiliency and building up your mental capacity and strengthening your mindset. You have to force your mind to do what your body doesn't want it to do. You have to tell your mind to do it. And you have to start. And you have to start again and again and again and again. And you have to keep telling yourself, no. Like, put your foot in the sand. When it comes to your mind, you got to treat your mind like it's a child. To be honest. You have to treat your mind like it's a child. You got to give it encouragement.
You got to give it love. You got to nurture it. You do. And the other thing is you have to feed it good things. You have to put good stuff in it. So, watching trash TV, talking to people that are negative, like all of that is going to support the nothingness. It's going to support you doing nothing. It's going to be a demotivator. So if you want to lose weight, to start a new business, to start a new venture, to do something positive in your life, you have to feed your mind positivity. You have to, like you said, everybody's not going to want to listen to motivational speeches, but maybe it's...
But they should try it.
But you should try. and or maybe it's music, and maybe it's a person or people that you talk to, or maybe it's reading, or maybe it's something else. I remember I had a job. I was in a position that was really, really extremely difficult. And as much as I liked the work, but I didn't like the environment that I was in. And it got me to the point where I was slow to rise every day. It was just like, oh God, I got to go into this place. And, you know, I knew it was just going to be adversity and negativity, and it was just hard all the time. So I didn't feel good about going there every day. So it made me, I got out the bed slower. I did everything slower, just trying to have more time to myself before I went into this environment, because it was very contentious and difficult. And so, after doing that for a couple of weeks, because I let that go on for a couple of weeks, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm crazy productive when I get there, but my mornings are disastrous to me. Like, my mind space is just not in a healthy place before I get here, and that's not taking care of me. So let me do something different about it. So I decided, I don't even know how this came to me. I think I was looking on Pinterest, because I like to pin things and look at stuff and plan around my day around different things that people are doing that are cool. So I use it a lot. And so I saw a TED Talk on a random topic. It had nothing to do with work. It had nothing to do with cybersecurity or teaching or anything else like that. But I looked at it and I decided, and so when I looked at it, it was about sustainability in Detroit. It was a young woman on there talking about how they were assisting people with growing crops and starting farms and like this whole nutritional movement for the city of Detroit. Had nothing to do with anything I was interested in at the time, but the way she spoke about it and how passionate she was about it, it did something to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to find a TED Talk every morning and I'm going to look at it on my way to work. I'm going to look at it while I'm getting dressed. I'm going to look at it while I'm thinking about my day. And I started doing that every single day. I picked different topics and I looked at a TED Talk every day on my way to work, and it changed my whole outlook. And the reason why I did that is because, like, some people will say, I'm going to look at a TED Talk about the kind of business I'm in. And I decided to do a completely different approach. I was like, I want to hear about some other industry. I want to hear about some other passion. And hearing about other people's passion and how they were overcoming adversity and how they were overcoming all these really, really difficult situations made me say, my situation is not that bad. And here's somebody else who has overcome some major thing that's completely different from me, and they still persevered. So that gave me motivation, and that helped me to kind of get over myself a little bit, where I said, you know what, this is not that bad. This situation is not that bad. And in the midst of it being so hard, I'm still excelling. I'm still supporting other people. I'm still motivating other people. People are telling me so I was missing it. One of the things I was missing was people were telling me every day the difference I was making in their lives, but I heard it, but I couldn't absorb it because I was in a funk. And so it changed my whole perspective. It made me be more grateful, more appreciative, strengthened my motivation. It did a lot of stuff for me. So I had to try it, just like you said. I tried that. Nobody told me that kinesis is going to work for you. I just tried it for myself. And I was like, wow, this is wow. Who knew? Listening to somebody else's story every day was going to do something for me. So I think that's what we got to do.
It's important to really figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would say that there's two dynamics to what really motivates me. One, that component that you just said of hearing other people's stories. And really for me, it's not necessarily where it's like, oh, my situation's not that bad. But more so, I know I'm talented as I don't know what. Right. I know I'm amazing. And so I'm like, oh, this person did that. I can do that.
I can do it too.
I can do that. Like, what? Yeah. And then I go out and try it, right? Or I'm like, I can build that same consistency. And I find ways to challenge myself. And I was having a conversation with someone, this week, that I was telling them, I don't compete with anyone. I only compete against myself. And if I can compete against myself every single day and look at the progress that I made yesterday and ask myself if I can beat it, then I'm doing what I want to do. And so when I think about, so for a great example is when I run. Every single time I run, I try to run a little bit further than the last time. And that's naturally how, when I post on Instagram or wherever and I got these long periods of running, it's because I always just aim to do more than I did the day before. And if you can learn ways to compete against yourself, that also makes it so that you keep the noise out.
Right.
Because if you're only concerned about your progress against your own progress and not comparing your progress to other people's progress, then you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to worry about their opinions. You don't have to worry about their negativity. You don't have to worry about pushing yourself or, creating barriers for yourself because you're competing against someone else. Way too often when we begin competing against other people, we hinder our own growth because we're doing things that's outside of our typical scope. We're doing things to be reactive, in relation to what someone else is doing, rather than proactive in relation to what we need to be doing.
Right. And I think a lot of times, people, you said you compete against yourself, but people are realistically competing against other people. And one of the things that I think you have to recognize, for yourself is if talking to certain types of people are not only demotivators, but if it's making you feel like you're not at a good place in your life or you're not where you should be from having that conversation, or if you're on social media and you're seeing people doing some stuff that you feel like you should be in a better position or you should be, and it's counterproductive, it's slowing you down, or it's taking you out of whatever your focus and your goals are or should be, stop doing it. You have to be honest with yourself. If talking to certain family members, if they're negative or that's putting you in a funk or it's making you feel some kind of way, stop talking to them. If being on Instagram and watching people live these grandiose lives that you don't even know are true or not, if that's making you feel some kind of way and you're not able to progress, stop doing that. Get off of those pages or cut out social media, cut out Instagram for some time. Like, figure out what is propelling you forward. And if none of the things in your life right now are doing that, remove them or shut the door on some of them, even if it's for on a temporary basis. Stop doing that, because your objective should be, or I think you'd want it to be, to progress and to propel yourself forward. So if the things in your life are not doing that for you right now, then stop. Change that focus. Figure out, add some different things in there. It's just like when you change your diet. If you were having a health issue and you go to the doctor keeps putting you on this medicine and you feel like you're not getting better. If you go to a nutritionalist or you go to a homeopathic doctor, they might tell you it might be your diet. So one of the first things they're going to tell you to do is take out this one and do some more of that. They'll have you go through a process of taking away and adding for your health. Do the very same thing, for your goal setting and your progressions in life and to enhance your life. Take out things and replace them with other things. Do the process of kind of shifting that so that you can see if the new things that you're adding in make you feel better and help you to progress, because the stuff that you have in there right now might not be doing it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've always said that I have a very addictive personality. And so one example is when I was younger, I used to eat Gushers.
All the time.
Right?
All
I would
the
eat
time.
Packs and packs of
all
Gushers.
The time.
And then one day I was like, this is a problem. I eat too many Gushers, and I just stopped eating Gushers cold turkey.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with a lot of things in my life. I'll like something, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
I'll do a bunch, and then I'll be like, I'm doing this too much, and I cut it off. And one of the things I learned is that I can't change this addictive personality I have to things and to habits. But what I can do is take out certain negative ones and certain vices that I may attach to or be addicted to, and I put in something good, something healthy. Yeah. Right? So I may take out eating candy and put in eating a salad every day. Or I may take out going out every night and put in reading in the evenings about subjects I really care about, and clasp onto those things. And again, I'll go back to it really comes down to self-analyzing and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't work, and how your body reacts to certain actions and activities, and then really doing a little bit of plug and play to make sure that the things that are benefiting you and the things that you need to succeed are at your table.
Yep. It really will make a difference in your life, but you have to like Iyanla Vanzant would say, you have to do the work. She always says that, and I always think that's such a powerful message. You have to do the work. Now, if you know, we're not talking to the people that don't want to do the work. You know, you can listen to this and it can fall on deaf ears, but if you want your life to be different and you want to have positive influences in your life, you have to do some of that. You have to remove things and put new things in there.
If your hero is not yourself, years down the line, then you have the wrong hero.
Yeah.
The point blank period. And Matthew McConaughey said it in a speech a couple years ago, you know, where he said his hero is him in 10 years. And I was younger, and that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because my hero is me in 10 years. It is me at this point, 37, that has all these accolades, that has had this much impact, that acts this way, that has these mannerisms, that's a gentleman in these different components, right? And if every single day I act like that person, if I embody who that person is, my thought of, or my ideal me in 10 years, if I'm doing that every single day, then I'm going to be that person much sooner than 10 years down the line. I'm going to have that impact much sooner than 10 years down the line, right? If the person that I imagine myself being is super well-spoken, articulate, a great listener, thinks about others before himself, you know, is super customer service oriented, has a bunch of different income streams, is a great investor, then what do I need to do each day to make those things happen? One, I act like he would act.
Yeah.
I dress the way he would dress. I speak the way he would speak.
Right.
I invest my time in the way he would invest his time. I invest my intellectual capacities in the same regard that he would, then I'm going to be Danny Wright at 37, probably at 32.
Right. And other ways to check in on that reminds me of when I talked about that job I was in that was really difficult. And, you know, I said weeks were going by and I was, you know, slow to get myself up, get into the office. I wasn't feeling so good about myself every day because I just felt like I was being used and abused every day. So I literally felt like, gosh, I'm exhausted by the end of the day. So one of the things I did to try to reset that I think attaches itself to what you just said about being your hero 10 years down the road is I started saying to myself, when I was listening to those TED Talks and I started getting a little bit more motivated, I started saying to myself, is this really as bad as you say? So one of the things that I made myself do every day was at the end of the day, I would write down everything I accomplished. Every single thing I accomplished. So I would mentally have things I wanted to do and accomplish every day. I didn't write those down. I had them in my head. So before I left the office every day, I would write down a list of everything that I accomplished. It wouldn't be like literally everything, but some of the big ticket items that I wanted to get done. So I might write down 5 or 8 or something like that. And I left them on my desk so that when I would come in the next morning, I would see it. High five, Kenise. You are awesome. Look at what you did. Look what you did, girl. So I start saying that kind of stuff to myself because I didn't have anybody else around doing that.
You gotta pat yourself on the back.
I did.
You gotta pat yourself on the back.
So from doing that, I promise you, shortly after I did that, somebody came into my office one day and they were just like, it was like looking at myself. They were like, this place is awful. I'm like dying. This place is killing me slowly. Like I can't survive this. I said, have a seat. Let me tell you some things. Let me tell you some things about what I've been doing. And it was like and she said, this is like one of the realest moments of my life because I didn't give her some, this is what you need to do with your life kind of talk. I said, let me tell you, I was getting out of the bed like a zombie every day. I went through the things that had been hindering me over the past couple of weeks and how hard life had gotten for me. I'm in a successful position. I'm making really decent money. I'm making an impact, but I can't even feel any of that because I'm feeling terrible every day coming to this office. So I told her that, and she was looking at me like, I cannot believe she is telling me the truth about what's happening to her life. And I said, this is what I do. And I showed her my piece of paper because it was right there. I said, this is what I do every single day. I write down everything that I've accomplished. And so the next morning I come in, high five, you go. Look what you did. You were awesome. If nobody else has told you, I'm telling you. And I kept doing that every day. And I saw the difference it was making in my life, in my team, in the organization. And before I left that place, I left a legacy. I left a true legacy based on me putting everything I had into getting that job done. Despite how hard it was sometimes, I was able to get over that to make the impact that was necessary. And it fed me. It actually enhanced my life and my productivity. It took some time to get there, but I was able to share that with somebody else. But I brought that up because you were talking about the steps that you need to take and who you need to be every day to assume the life of that hero that you plan to be in 10 years. That's part of how you do it. You have to recognize what you're doing well. You have to recognize when you're not, as successful as you want to be and make those adjustments. But you don't always have somebody else in your life to help you do it. Sometimes it's you looking at you doing that, and so that's what I had to do to be a better me. So
it's important to celebrate the small wins and the small successes. When we first started, this episode, you talked about the article you read in Entrepreneur Magazine, and how the writer said that very often he would hold his champagne for a big celebration or something like that, but people have to do what works for them.
Yep.
And thinking about that story, if you said, hey, every single day I'm gonna write down 4 accomplishments, and at the end of the week, if I write down my 4 accomplishments every day, that I'm gonna take myself out for ice cream or
there you go.
whatever, or I'm gonna buy myself, this. If there's nothing wrong with giving yourself rewards and incentives.
Not at all.
Like if life sucks, make it a game. For me, I enjoy life because I make it a game for myself, and I play that game every day very well.
Yep.
I make bets, I make incentives, I entertain myself, and this may be a little more on the crazy component, because I may be walking down the street and I may be like, if you make the light, make the light, we're gonna do this, or I'll give myself options if I do this, or if this goes well. And I reward myself, and I make life fun. I make it entertaining for myself.
Yeah.
And people also have to do that. If you can't make your job or your personal and professional growth fun, then you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
Life should be fun. You should be enjoying yourself.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you aren't, then we have to figure out how to do that.
Yep. And I think I love the idea of incentives, because I've done that too in my own life. And I've talked to people that have called me after having a hard day. My sister has done this, where she's called me and she's just like, this job sucks. These people suck. Life sucks. And we talk about, everything that happened bad in the day. And so right after she gets it all out, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? You're doing amazing things. Like the fact that you are persevering despite all these things that you just told me, you deserve something today. Like you need to go do something for yourself today. What do you want? It's Taco Tuesday? You want a taco? Like, what do you want? Is it a movie that you've been wanting to see? Like whatever. Like I tell her all the time, because I'm listening to her tell me about why the job or why the environment is so difficult. But at the same time, I'm listening to how great she is in it. And so, thankfully, like she has me to tell her to tease out, like, wait a minute, you're awesome in all of that. Wait, why? You're getting back up and you're going to do that again tomorrow, despite all these things that happen, and you're helping people in the process. So I'm like shedding light on the goodness that's happening in the midst of that. So go reward yourself for it, because, nobody at the end of the day told you that you're awesome despite the fact that you are dealing with all these difficult and contentious situations. So I'm telling you, this is a time to reward yourself for it, So we have to do that for ourselves. It's not, unfortunate that we don't always have somebody to do that or to speak that positivity to us, but we have to be there for ourselves.
We do. And as this year comes to a close, instead of having conversations with people like, oh, this year has sucked, or oh, this has been this bad, take some time to look at the year and think about what's gone right.
Right.
Comparably, if you look at how bad this year has been and you can mark out the successes you've had and the things that have gone well, you should be like, wow, this year actually hasn't been that bad for me compared to other people. Or given all of these circumstances, I actually did well. Or given all these circumstances, I'm actually in a position where I'm not as worse off as I could have been.
Right.
Because I did these things.
Yep.
Maybe it's you stayed in the house and didn't catch COVID. Maybe it's you were able to keep your job. Maybe it's you were able to invest more time in your personal development. I don't know. But look at the year. Look at the wins you've had. Pat yourself on the back.
Yep.
And begin planning for next year.
Next year.
Forward thinking, towards how you are going to make 2021 dynamic.
Yep.
You're going to crush it. And if you can do that, then, this past year wouldn't have been that bad.
Right. And start planning for it now. Like, don't wait till, January 1st, people are like, okay, what am I? No, do it now. Do it now. Do it right now.
And, I may even challenge people, don't even come up with New Year's resolutions. You don't need
you don't.
Just mark down some habits you're gonna change or you're gonna develop and just start working towards those things. And by the end of 2021,
you'll get there. You'll get there. Yep.
So that's this episode.
We're done.
That is our scheme. The scheme is do your thing.
Do your thing. 2021 is upon us. Get it done. All right, we out.